Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We have an update in the Clayton Echard paternity scandal that just won't seem to end. Why is that? Well, because the lady who accused Clayton of being the father of her unborn twins is now being investigated by county prosecutors. And rather than, I guess, work on their defense to the wild investigation of, of what the heck might have gone down with medical fraud and whatnot, they are doing a sort of smear campaign on the internet. An agent of chaos, maybe, or just in it for himself. We don't know, but her attorney now calls the Justice for Clayton community ISIS. That's right, a terrorist organization. Now, I don't need to tell anybody how to act. I don't need to tell anybody to feel offended. You should be upset about this. People can feel their own emotions. But in a world where a man was wrongfully accused of being the father for unborn twins, medical evidence comes out, judge rules on his side, she's forced to pay $150K. In that world that we live in, her attorney is now weaponizing one of the more tragic aspects of recent American history, that being the terrorist attacks we've had on our own soil. I mean, whether it's 9/11 or whether it's the wars fought abroad or or all of the crazy chaos that exists in the world, her attorney is equating a community of strangers that have come together to seek justice for a man wrongfully accused of things, and he's equating that to terrorism. That's wild stuff. Now, he'll use any tool in his toolbox, as we've learned. Laura will as well, as Laura has called the FBI on me for revenge P-word. Why? Can you imagine? I've never met the lady. She's called the district attorney on me. She's called the police. And her attorney, who we're calling Dingus, has called the police on one of the men that was going to speak at the trial. Now it appears as though her attorney is sharing voicemails from one of her ex's mothers to show, oh, was she really that bad if the mom thought X, Y, and Z? Absolutely wild stuff. I am sickened by what's going on. I had a video pre-prepared for you because I am, I shouldn't say on holiday because I'm here on business. I have a stand-up show tonight in Rhode Island. If you want to come, tickets are limited. DM me on Instagram if you want to, get a link to that. I've got it on my link tree. But either way, I'm here, so I made some pre-recorded content with my pal Bruce, and you're going to get that in this video. That's coming up next, but I'd be remiss if I did not share how wild of a scenario we have. So Justice for Clayton official is doing such a great job. I'm going to share what some of the things they've done to put things together. I believe, and by the way, I have no idea. If you sat me down, speaking of terrorism, if you sat me down in Guantanamo Bay and waterboarded me to death, I couldn't tell you who runs Justice for Clayton official. I couldn't. And to be quite honest, if I made 10 guesses, I'd probably be wrong. I have no idea who this is. With that said, I believe that Laura Owens is trying to find out who they are because they're doing such a good job getting this story out. Way better than any job I could have done. Way better. I can go on YouTube all day long and talk about this, but they are using mockery in its best form. Here it is. Dingus pooping out all the lies Laura fed him. And of course, this is, a meme that went viral recently of a dog who ate, I guess, some like plastic toys or whatever. And then they continue to share what's worse. A, the mentally ill woman who faked pregnancies and stalks men. B, the lawyer who defends and exploits the women. C, the mom who knows the daughter is unwell, yet enables and helps her schemes and also pays for the lawyer to exploit her daughter. I don't know. I would say B, actually. I think B is worse than C because C, it's like, well, it's her daughter, so like family, blood's thicker than whatever. But B, it's like, what is the motive here? My belief is the motive is a man whose career is waning past its prime and trying to latch onto, he's like an ambulance chaser for the internet and trying to latch onto what he thinks could be like a landmark case where the Supreme Court rules in his favor. Listen, even if the Supreme Court ruled in his favor on some form of technicality, the laptop's real, Chase J. Jones isn't, and so many other things exist that he has yet to address. Someone said, anyone else bored with Dingus's brand of Twitter filth? I'm certainly bored by it. He's under investigation, they say, by the state Bar of Arizona after at least 2 bar complaints against him were recently submitted. Now, I don't think anything's going to come of that, because what I've learned of the Arizona bar is they are there to protect their lawyers. That's what I've learned, is that unless there's something egregious, they're just going to give him a slap on the wrist. I mean, they told him months ago, tone it down, and what has happened? Now he's calling us ISIS, cockroaches, MAGA, whatever. He continues to post personal attacks at Laura's victims and those who advocate for the victims. Dingus's conduct is prejudicial to the administration of justice, as it discourages victims from seeking justice and threatens those advocating for the victims. I mean, that was Laura's playbook. Is she would hit these guys so hard in court early on that they would just want her to go away, and that's again worked for a little bit, but it ain't gonna work no more. Last night he released voicemails from the mother of victim 1, Mike Maricini, to Laura during the time that they dated. He said, as a response to the narrative that Laura tried to extort Mike into a relationship, Laura asked me to share these voicemails from Mike's mom. These are from near the end of the relationship. Does this sound like the mom views Laura as a predator? No one asked if the mom views Laura as a predator. As far as the mom's concerned, it could be the same response that Clayton's mom had. Clayton's mom was like, oh, Clayton's going to be a dad. That was the first thought that a mom has. Moms want, apropos of me, to use the term, to be here in my mom's house to understand mom. I know moms. Okay, my whole audience is moms. We love a good mom. We love our moms. There's somebody breastfeeding their baby. There's a mom right now nourishing her child. My wife is breastfeeding my son. His mom, my wife, is over there getting the goods, getting that old milkshake paradise. And the point is moms want a conservative results for their children. And I don't mean this politically. They want the safest job with health care and retirement benefits. They want, oh, you found a daughter. Laura's dad's got a retirement. Oh my gosh, he's prestigious. I can now brag about who my son's dating to the pickleball community. That's what moms want. So for all we know, the mom was excited. Hey, give Laura a chance. And Mike's like, you don't understand what she's doing. Oh no, like everyone treated Laura with kid gloves because everyone expects the best out of others. No one was prepared for what Laura could do. And in Mike's case, fake ovarian cancer. Did the mom like Laura when she found out she faked ovarian cancer? And we're assuming faked an abortion because at the same time, and I think I'm fair to assume she faked an abortion because at the same time she faked ovarian cancer, she used the same set of photos to say she was getting an abortion. What was it? Were you in for ovarian cancer or were you in for abortion? And why is it so hard to believe that? Well, because she faked the doctors, and we've got those emails which she patently denied. And we have I think she denied it in an affidavit, a sworn affidavit. And she wipes her ass with these sworn affidavits. That's what she does. She doesn't give 2 shits about these sworn affidavits. She wiped her ass with a sworn affidavit, metaphorically, that said that, I didn't send those emails. And then, of course, we raised $5,000 for a computer laptop expert to verify. An expert, I believe, that served in the military. I wonder what that expert thinks when it comes to Dingus referring to our community as ISIS. The only way you could compare us to ISIS is that we have metaphorically blown up her story. We have metaphorically blown up her story and picked it apart to find all the facts, the lies. So did she extort Mike? Well, I'll tell you what she did. She faked a agent to pretend that Mike was going to get a 6-figure contract to run a radio show with her. Is that extortion? Is that some form of, is it luring Mike under false pretenses? Hey, stick around. This is going to be good for us. Same thing with Clayton. Hey, don't you want that $100,000 commission? Call it what you want. Unbelievable he's doing this. And by the way, this is going to lead right into my interview, which you're going to catch in this same video right now. It's going to lead right into it where we discuss, wow, are we a cult or what? He continues to reference Greg Gillespie and Laura having sex. How bizarre. Someone said, I'm not Greg. He thinks everyone's Greg. He'd think I'm Greg, if I wasn't on camera. And he said, you should ask Laura for her take on how that went. I guess that being hooking up with Greg. Weird story, but good to know he is happy now. Let's ask Gingras' wife how about weird stories in the bedroom. I say that I'm not actually going to do that. I'd rather not know. Someone said, what the hell is wrong with you? These are from Mike's mom, an unrelated third party who may not have known anything at the time and certainly didn't deserve her privacy violated. You honestly think doing this makes either of you look good? He said, so you guys get to violate every aspect of Laura's privacy, including her mom, dad, and sister, and people she does business with, but Laura isn't allowed to respond to your lies? No wonder you guys hate us so much. I would say this about Dingus. Like, I have a beef with him because he threatened to make my pregnant wife homeless. But people don't hate Dingus. They don't care about him. He doesn't exist outside of the world of finding justice for Clayton, Mike, Greg, Sean, Matt, Dave. He doesn't exist outside of our world with regard to that. Nobody cares about him. No one hates us, quote unquote us. He wants to make this divisive. He wants to make this an us versus them. This isn't an us versus anybody. This is a finding the truth. It just so happens that him and his client are standing directly in the way as we walk down the hallway to the truth. We've already found the truth. No wonder you guys hate us so much. Justice for Clayton is like ISIS. The truth is poison to you. How bizarre, how bizarre. There's online discussion regarding the nature and history. Okay, so I don't even want to get into the other stuff about him because while it's probably fair to discuss for other people, I don't want to. I'm trying my best to make this justice about Clayton, but we do appreciate the Justice for Clayton official page. Someone said they asked, should Gingras be stripped of his attorney's license? I mean, look, he's going to walk that tightrope as long as he can. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep having conversations with good people. Am I wearing the same shirt? Oh my gosh, what a scrub. I'm going to have conversations with good people that he says are members of ISIS, people that he says are cult members. These aren't. These are people that have come into this story and stuck around so long because they realized that the truth was in jeopardy. The truth exists all around us. We've exposed it. We've shared every version of it. We've overturned every stone in pursuit of that truth. And we have a damning Padlet, a damning timeline, and a damning conversation around who's been truthful and who hasn't. I don't need to convince anybody otherwise. Here's my conversation with my good pal, Bruce from Oregon. We have a conversation around the Bachelor Clayton Echard paternity scandal, which we've covered for a year now. It's almost like this is our year, like anniversary special, but I'm joined by good friend of the program, Bruce from Oregon. How you doing, Bruce?
Doing all right, Dave.
Well, you've become like a member of the YouTube family here. I want to ask you a few questions about life before the Laura Owens scandal rocked our nation. And life after.
Yeah.
When did you first enter our community? And can you remember a time before we knew of Laura Owens?
Oh my gosh. It seems like it's been even longer than a year.
Right.
But I feel like I started watching your videos maybe just around the Katie Thurston time frame. Katie Thurston season.
That's when a lot of things we were already full-time before that, but that was that whole almost end of the pandemic was definitely a growth time for us here. Now, were you was it just the algorithm that shoved me down your throat, or because my apologies for that, because it
was, working from home during that time frame. My ex-girlfriend was getting me into watching Bachelor in Paradise and the Matt James season and all that. And so I just started riding my exercise bike and I was watching YouTube videos to sort of recap. So if I didn't want to watch an episode if she was out of town, I would just watch Bachelor Fan Take. And then the Katie Thurston drama picked up and I watched more videos because I wanted to understand it better from a psychological perspective. And that's when I found your videos.
Yeah, that's a good psychological perspective is a good way to put it, because it's I don't pretend to know anything, obviously, but a curiosity is really all you need on YouTube. And so many people would focus on like recapping what happened on the show. And I still do that almost as a vestige. That's like my tailbone. It's like my vestige of a past. Why even recap the show? Did you watch? There's no need for a recap. What I learned was my recapping just existed so people in the comment section could have a community to chat. I want to let our comment section know this is a premiere, not a live stream. So this is recorded in advance because I'm traveling, but we are recording this as a premiere so that the comment section can also interact.
Yeah.
But yeah, you became a quick and friendly name in the community. Obviously, as a male in our 90+% female audience, you shot up to the top. I go, oh, Bruce, we got a man in here. This is great.
It's
Uh,
interesting.
yeah, but how does that feel having, because you actually were working in I would assume a male dominated industry. Am I correct?
Yeah, I worked for 26 years in the tech industry, and I have a lot of gaming friends. And so also the gaming community and the tech community are both heavily male dominated. So I guess in the bachelor community, I understand what it's like to
Yeah,
be a
it's
lady
nice.
in those communities.
Isn't it nice though to have some feminine energy here that kind of keeps? I think it keeps the barbaricism, if that's even a word, from the male perspective, kind of down because they're, and don't get me wrong, like it's just nice. Like I've always stand-ups male dominate for the most part, male dominated. There's a lot of men who do comedy. There's a lot of men, in my sports teams and this and that. So
Mm,
for me, it's been nice, and I think the success of my show is based on the fact that not many men were talking about the show. So
right.
just I used to call it a guy's review, and that was kind of just like, yeah, I'm just a guy, and I'm seeing it from like when I watch the show, I build empathy with the male experience. If I feel like the guy got dumped, I can speak towards that. And I think a lot of times on the show, a lot of the quote unquote villains are the men, and I kind of feel like a lot of times I'm like, well, that guy's, Greg Grippo's not the worst in the world. And then people, oh, what are you talking about, Dave? And it kind of just, become one of those conversations where I try to make it feel like it's a one-on-one convo, but you've seen in
Hmm.
the chat room, sometimes I'm talking to, I mean, I think one time we had 3 or 4 thousand people in the chat
Yes.
during now you've been so helpful as a moderator, as a friend, as a therapist. I mean, you've really seen, I think, some of the mental health issues that have come up from covering the Laura Owens case. Can you
Hmm.
speak on what it's like to watch it go down from the comment section?
um, it's very interesting because people will be persuaded by sufficient evidence, but people do come in with their own history, their own bias, their own experiences. And so people will have different opinions, and that is flavored by their experience. So it's interesting to see those conversations. And of course, as a moderator, I'm just trying to make sure there aren't any trolls or spammers or that things get too out of hand.
Yeah, I try for the most part to make the chat room just like you can have whatever opinion you want to have as long as it's not chaotic, as long as it's not shaming somebody else. Like, let's
Mhm.
just keep this like a living room. I would never kick someone out of my living room because they believe the earth's flat. I would kick them out if someone called them an a-hole for feeling that way. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
like, I think in today's world, there's a lot of shame placed on content creators for who they quote unquote platform. And I
Mm.
think in most cases it's overdone, right? Like take, for example, Clayton Eckerd. When he decided to go on different podcasts, in some ways people were really upset. We had a lot of people that were upset that I was bringing Megan Fox onto my show.
Mhm.
Megan Fox is nothing short of a guardian angel in the sense that I'm less worried about a bigger movement and more worried about not sinking my own ship and
Mhm.
protecting my family. And I think what Laura Owens did in the Clayton Eckert scandal is she forced a lot of tribalism because she did threaten my livelihood. Her lawyer did threaten to unhouse me and sue me into oblivion and this and that. Did you ever think, as like someone who's like watched this from the beginning, did you ever think it would get to that? Or, in hindsight, it's almost like this is our new normal, but pretty wild a year later to think it got to such extremes.
Yeah. I think in the very beginning, I was ready to listen to the evidence. I was ready to say, well, maybe Clayton did, he's single now. Maybe he did get somebody pregnant, right? We had just been through the whole debacle with the lady from New York. So I think that flavored a lot of people, at least in the Bachelor community, that flavored their look at the original information.
Yeah, and you were one of the first people to reassure me that you want to believe what I think you say, believe and verify. Is that the phrase?
Well, I think it's
Or trust?
the time to believe a claim is when there's sufficient evidence. And the trick there is that the word sufficient can be subjective. So if you tell me you have $5 in your wallet I'm just going to believe you. I don't need to see it because it's a mundane claim. But if you tell me you have a huge pile of gold bars in your garage, I probably don't believe you unless you show them to me.
And also, in the instance, like in my instance, as a content creator, what I say and do is going to live on forever if people
Mhm,
want it to. So I have to be careful to say, okay, I'm going to take your word for it, but like, what's the rush? And
mhm.
when it came
Yeah.
to like, if we go back another year, the Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard case was so insane that you
Mhm,
had, I don't know, 80% of the people believing Johnny and a strong 20% believing Amber. Just throwing this number out there from how I kind of saw it. Johnny
mm,
had a huge audience, but she did as well. And if you were like on the wrong side, the other side hated you. And meanwhile, we were watching a trial play out. And I just said, I'm going to wait for the trial
yeah.
to play out and I'm going to make my decision based on the evidence. When I
Mhm,
came to the same decision that the jury unanimously came to, I had people put me on a list that was not a list you want to be on. I was accused of being
right.
a men's rights activist, all these other things.
Yeah.
Similarly, with the Clayton case, when I came to the judgment, man, this Laura Owens chick seems to be full of shit. We've got people, and again, it wasn't necessarily right away. It was
No.
her initial article was super suspect in the sense that she was doing, I think they those sort of those kind of bombastic claims like I was afraid for my safety, and I was like, really, from Clayton Eckerd? This guy couldn't hurt a fly. I mean, he's literally a pacifist. I've never seen him get angry at all. He's just a big, strong man. Um,
Yeah.
so you start to see these things and you go, okay, I'm a little suspicious. And
Mhm,
then much like a year later, we're waiting for Gingras to follow through on so many of his claims. We
mhm,
waited for Laura to provide the evidence that
mhm.
was her video of the ultrasound and all these other things, and none of it showed up. So like, at what point were you convinced she was full of shit, or like, were you, at what point were you like, all right, I think I've made my mind up on this?
Well, I mean, I still sort of maintain that she very well could have been pregnant. She could have been pregnant by Clayton for all I know. I wasn't there. I don't know. Based on all the evidence I've seen, my answer is I don't know. But in terms of bringing a claim in court, to me, she did not pass the bar of providing sufficient evidence to prove her claims. So I think that started with the when that RevGen test came back, and it was like, "Hey, it's Friday, little to no fetal DNA," right? I was like, "Well, this is very interesting because what does this mean? It either means somebody was never pregnant, or maybe there was a miscarriage and now they're not pregnant." But then we had those later Zoom calls with the large belly and saying, "I'm 100% pregnant." So it was all like contradictory evidence to me in my mind.
Yeah,
So I had a lot of problems with it.
yeah, from that standpoint, there were so many different storylines you could go back to where she
Mhm,
changed her story that I think you only needed one change of the story is enough to discredit it, but you
mhm,
have like a dozen. You have like a dozen cases where you go, "Well, Clayton swore under oath that
mhm,
he never had sex with her.
mhm.
She's lied under oath by what date she went to Planned Parenthood and this and that. She's lied to me,
Yeah.
what was it like being a part of the live stream? What was it like to be a part of the Fiverr logo getting revealed? The
Yeah.
HCG. I mean, can you imagine what it was like for me that, the 5 minutes before I'm going live when I
Yeah,
discovered the HCG test don't line up? I mean,
exactly. Um, I mean, I just tried to approach things in terms of, a lot of people will try to sort of present a hot take or an opinion or something. I just try to go in and say, what can I do? In all these communities, whether it's Discord or Reddit, I say, what's under my control? How can I help? Can I help with audio video gear? Can I help with talking to Dave? How can I help? And that's the approach I took. I think there was a very surreal moment there in the parking lot in Arizona on June 10th where we were setting up the van. We'd found a good spot. We had the spot for the tent, and the SWAT guys started setting up out of their large armored trucks. very close to us before they moved down the parking lot. And I just watched these guys with dogs and weapons and vests getting ready, and I'm like, What am I doing? Like, how did I get here? Like, what is this?" It was a little surreal, but, I think I just sort of approached it as, "We have a job to do, let's do it."
Yeah, that was I mean, when I say the temperature, in that van the temperature in the van must have been high 90s. The
Yeah,
temperature on the ground was a buck 20. I mean,
yeah,
you couldn't even get the antenna off the roof of the van. You could have fried an egg in 2 seconds
yeah,
up there. It was a no, we had a generator that I guess they gave it to me low on gas. I don't really know
mhm,
what happened, but we had to use
probably,
the van's air conditioner for, like, the
mhm.
front. So you actually had a little bit of air, but I mean, it was a rough one.
Yeah,
Uh,
the van wasn't too bad inside the van. A lot of people thought we were cooking in there, but it was actually better than being outside.
oh, totally. And my thought, yeah, there was some very surreal moments when you start to see the characters show up. Woodnick's law team, Clayton, previous victims, Mike, Greg, their
Mhm.
significant others, Laura showing up with her attorney and her medical expert. I mean, I kind of feel like she enjoyed feeling like she was this damsel in distress. I can't even begin to break down what's going through her head as far as this whole spectacle.
Yeah.
But all I can do is bring my own ego into it, which is
Mhm.
all of this is to protect my son and my wife. Like that's all it comes down to. In an extension, my community, my livelihood, but everything that they did to try to silence me, I think
Mhm.
I've realized, oh, 2 years from now, she could have a book coming out that just destroys me. And I need to be in front of every move she decides to make. And sadly, for those that I think didn't take the time to understand the position I was in, friendships were lost and other things happened. And it's like, they don't a lot. I'm glad a lot of people don't know what it's like to have the DA contacted, the FBI called, and all these other things. But I know that even any sort of allegation made can be enough that the internet that it pulls up on the internet and whatever. So you understand it's just like
Yep.
it became kind of one of those things like I have to go do this. And I think because I had this sort of mission to see it through, other people obviously were there for the spectacle. The courtroom had a spillover. I mean, just incredible. Were you surprised at the at the turnout?
I wasn't because I saw with the February status hearing, the amount of people during the live stream you did that were waiting for the phone calls from the courtroom. The amount of people that showed interest in watching that happen and watching that play out was so great that I
Yeah.
figured June there would be some more people deciding to go in person.
I think that's the pivotal moment when I talked to Clayton and said, "Hey, everyone was watching this," and he had no
Yeah.
idea. Like, that was such a pivotal moment to realize, while not everyone in Bachelor Nation cares about this, those that are really justice focused, they don't wanna see what could happen. Like, it was so obvious what was about to happen to him, and that's what's interesting. You obviously said based on the information you have, maybe she was
Mhm.
pregnant, maybe she wasn't. You'll never know. And I guess, like, yeah, there'll always be a you'll never know, but that's exactly what she preyed on. And
Mhm.
given the multiple months she had, like, she's so litigious, she'll go out of her way. I mean, she emailed me back before I got my lawyer involved. She emailed me a receipt of the processing server she hired to
Yep.
hand deliver me my restraining order. She
Oh yeah.
expedited it, so she was paying extra to get this guy to harass me. Now,
Yeah.
she didn't realize, because this was, I think, the first time that I know of that she ever tried to get a restraining order on someone she never met. So she didn't
Mhm.
realize they would smack it down. And neither did I. And it was
Yeah.
smacked down. But, like, she'll go out of her way to prove her point.
Mhm.
She'll edit things and
Yeah.
clip into this, but she couldn't walk down to any sort of medical provider and get an ultrasound.
I know, right? And this was before we had, legal experts chiming in, which give us confidence, right? Because when they analyze court documents and say, well, I don't think this motion's going to be, approved or whatever. This was all before that. I remember text messages, Friday, happy hour. We were texting and you were like, should I just get out of this whole thing or do we got to see this through?
Yeah, and
It,
that's a lot of what the GoFundMe was when people raise money. The haters would say, "Oh no, you were trying to take money from your audience." That's what they always say, right? But it was kind of a moment where I was like, "I don't think I need this." And then people said, "We will fund your lawyer if that's what this is about. We will make sure that you have representation to deal with this."
right.
And at that moment, it I think, or at some point, I realized the way to fight her is to let her know we are not short on funds, and to let her know you're not going to sink us the way you sank Mike and Greg. Because any normal person would just want someone to go away, and you
Hmm.
think that would happen, Mike. Yeah, it'll just go away, and it doesn't go away. And we saw Mike, the one of the first victims. We saw, he's dealing with his stepdad who's dying, and he's still trying to help, her, and she's manipulating him. So even in his weakest moment, she was still trying to take advantage of somebody. And
Hmm.
we've just had to fight that by saying no. Like, what do you like? The more she tries to come after us, the bigger the audience will be. Now, sadly, her attorney is trying to use that against us,
Right.
claiming we're in it for the money, we're in it for the cult. Um, what's your response to this idea that we're part of some crazy cult that's unable to see any evidence that points us away from Clayton being a savior?
Uh, it just kind of baffles my mind because I did a whole video where I went through and I looked up the definition of a cult and I looked at the best way to figure out what a cult is. Way back before there was YouTube, before there was Wikipedia, I always had this question in the back of my mind, like what differentiates an organization, a club, a religion, any group, and a cult? What scientific test, qualitative or quantitative, can I do to figure out if that group is a cult or not? And I always had this question in the back of my mind. And it turned out this PhD student, Stephen Hassan, created this bite model, which is a model to determine if an organization fits the characteristics of a cult. And that was his PhD thesis, I believe. And it talks about behavioral control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. And you can go through and look at an organization or a group. Say you want to just go look at the Discord, the Dave Neal fan Discord. Is there any behavioral control, information control, thought control, emotional control in there? Because traditional cults that are very dangerous, like this Nixium cult, the Manson family, uh, Branch Davidians, Heaven's Gate, these dangerous cults that have caused a lot of harm to people, they will fit this model with their behavioral control, information control, thought control, emotional control. They typically do it by taking people and putting them somewhere. Like, come to our compound. It'll be great. It'll be utopia, right?
Yeah,
And
breaking them away from family that might convince them that they're
yeah,
yeah.
and that's how they exert the control. And in this case, there's no sort of proof that anybody has gone through that says, well, these people on Reddit or these people over here in a Discord or these people running a wiki page exhibit any of these characteristics. So it doesn't pass the test for me. And the thing I find interesting is if their argument is everybody's out there for the content, well, the content creators are going to cover both sides of the story because that's how you get the most content. If you were only covering one side, you would make half the content. So if the argument is that people are after, the most content or the most coverage or the most comprehensive coverage, you will cover both sides.
And I
So I
would
think it's
argue I
yeah,
would argue that I play the devil's advocate in Bachelor Nation more than any content creator. I'm getting in trouble all the time.
maybe
So
yeah,
like, wait a second, let's see about this side. Like, and again, it's my way of saying, like, as a comedian, you need to know the both sides of whatever argument you're going to make. You need to be prepared for the heckle on the other side. So you need to be airtight with your defense. That's why comedy in the
right.
legal world, kind of a lot of lawyers become comedians because there is the prosecuting of your point in one way or another. So I
Mhm.
look at that and I go, no, nobody. Now, on a personal basis, I didn't want Clayton to be a bad guy
Mhm.
because I always want to believe people are good people. But also, I didn't want Laura to lose a bunch of weight and be all stressed out.
Yeah.
They always say you don't hit rock bottom till you stop digging. And by having this lawyer, I'm trying to get through to her that she's made it so much worse for herself. She probably wouldn't be investigated by the, county prosecutors if he didn't put gasoline on the fire. I can assure you, I would not have found out she committed medical fraud if it
Hmm.
wasn't for him. We would
Hmm.
not have raised money for Mike's laptop, which we then found out. I mean, Mike's laptop, we only found out because he was so triggered by the lawyer and all these things
Oh
that
yeah.
he really dug deep to find information. So I want to say if Laura's listening, but I know she is, she has to understand this guy is bad news for you. And I'm not even telling her to drop him at this point, but he's in it for himself. He's in it to make a name for whatever case law he wants to be attached to. And this idea that we're a cult just doesn't exist. Now, he he exists perfectly on Twitter because he can fire out some thoughts and then he can just say, "Hey, I'm going on vacation," and walk away. But in the world of YouTube, we make content that
Mhm.
rebuts his claims. So
Right.
his latest claims, prove it wrong, it should take 2 seconds. 2 seconds later. I mean, we
Yes.
have a beast of people that are really smart online that have exposed the YouTube two-factor authentication. They exposed that Chase J. Jones was faked. I mean, they exposed massive, massive things. And these are people I'll never know their names or who they are. They're just like good Samaritans of justice.
Right.
So, I mean, what do you think? How do you think this all ends?
Well, I mean, there was a early September filing of a notice of appeal, so I guess we are waiting for the appeal. Beyond that, I don't know what happens next.
Yeah, he
I don't
says
think we couldn't have predicted all these Medium blog posts about autism, which has kind of fired things up recently. So you think it's going to be quiet until the appeal gets filed, but who knows?
kind of makes you wonder if, we think a lot about dopamine and the fight or flight response and a lot of toxicity here. It makes you wonder if things get a little too quiet, if she actually enjoys in some weird way the attention she gets. I don't know how else. My thought with her attorney is that sort of like chaos agent aspect
Hmm.
is that they're trying to make sure her SEO is not all one sided. And so they're just sowing doubt. But, our audience, I think what we've learned is they're kind of like cicadas. We could go away for 7 years. And if she wants to release an article rewriting the story, boop. So it's just one of those things. It's not there to torment her. It's just there to be the bumper lanes in the bowling alley to redirect people to the truth. That's all
Yeah.
it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. And there's really no organizational control of any of it. People from different communities will find different information. People come and go. People have gone off the grid. New people have shown up and found out interesting things. Uh, and I just don't know what he's doing with the Twitter because it seems like what he does a lot is he sort of speculates. He says, well, this could be possible. And except he doesn't say it like that. He sort of says it as if that's his theory of the case. And then I'm like, well, we need proof. We don't need speculation. Speculation is not the same as proof.
Yeah, and the only proof he brought was paying a retired doctor to say she was pregnant, and that doctor hadn't even seen an ultrasound video. It's just
Yeah.
unbelievable stuff. Now, I'm proud of you for a lot of the maneuvers you're making in life. How far I don't know how much of this you wanna talk about, but you were presented with an ultimatum this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Can you tell us about this ultimatum?
Yeah. So, well, I spent over 26 years working at Intel Corporation, working on tech, and they are trying to do some cost cutting. They're trying to do some restructuring. And so they offered people that were eligible a enhanced retirement package. And I became eligible at the end of January this year. And so when they offered that package, I took a good hard look at it. And it was a tough call because I enjoyed my job and I enjoyed managing my team. Management and technical work was my day job. But I decided it was too good an offer to pass up. And I had a laundry list of things that I wanted to do around the house, inside and outside, and artistic things and other creative endeavors. So that's what I decided to do.
Yeah, that moment where you have, it's not too often in life we're presented with these decisions. A lot of times, like you're fired, you're laid off, whatever.
Hmm.
It reminds me of Men in Black when Will Smith he's given a night to decide if he wants to be a Men in Black, and Tommy Lee Jones says, all right, if you're going to make the decision, and he's like, I don't, he's like running through New York City. The sun rises on a park bench. I mean, it's like a big decision
Right.
that you were presented with. And to be quite honest, I've never been presented with a decision where, like that, like I was fired early on in my corporate world for like sucking at my job. So like I've almost had my decisions made out of incompetence. So I don't know if I would have chosen safety or what you've chosen, which is to like branch out. So I'm proud of you. I love the adage, leap in the net will appear. What are you like, what's something in your wildest dreams that might happen with all the free time you have now?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, aside from all of the sort of mechanical things I want to do, like chores around the house, I have creative endeavors. Actually, it was funny because the very first day I was off the books, so this is my creative desk right here, and then I have my work desk over there. I actually took my personal laptop and I set it up at my work desk, my old work desk, turned on Work with Dave, and started cranking out a list of the things I wanted to do, started brainstorming. And, there's some short novels I've got to edit up and complete. There's some music projects I want to do. There's a whole video series on management I want to put on YouTube that I've started to do. So I'm doing some of these things and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, and you know what I love is, you build, as a member of our community, and like you've got your own community, and like they're all kind of they're all kind of like fellow communities here.
Hmm.
You'll realize that whatever it is you want to do, you'll put your love and your energy and your thoughts into that, and then it'll mesh with somebody. Like on my podcast I was covering this girl who this lady who designed her like freckle glitter company,
Oh,
and
yeah, the freckle glitter.
she sends it to Taylor Swift's person, doesn't hear back, and then all of a sudden, months later, Taylor Swift's wearing it on Monday Night Football, and her company's like through the roof. So like,
Amazing.
I could never make freckle glitter because it's not my passion. But if that's somebody's passion, how it applies and what colors you can get it in, which shades to match your acrylic nails. If that's what you love to do, that positive energy and that love goes into it, and it's a commodity. And
Hmm.
so for you in your place, all you got to do is keep on going into the direction of things that make you happy. It's
Hmm.
like how simple is that you've got, this,
Yeah.
sort of like you don't even have, it's not like, "All right, you have to be a novelist." Go garden, go build
No.
a shed, go
Yeah.
do whatever you wanna do? Maybe
Yeah.
you could, build us one of those vans with better air conditioning for when we're at the appeals court.
Maybe, maybe. Yeah, it's kind of amazing, and I feel fortunate to have, somewhere anywhere between 12 and 18 months to just do whatever I wanna do.
Yeah,
So,
and then, yeah, so we're happy for you, and, people can find you. I'll post a link, in the description, but Bruce
mhm.
from Oregon, you've got your YouTube channel, you're making great content, and, dude, it's been a pleasure. Don't get too big so that you leave our community. No, I'm kidding. I
Oh,
would love nothing more than if you skyrocket and I'm your moderator, and I'm
what?
I'm in the comment section like, "Nobody fight, somebody subscribe to my Patreon." But, yeah, will you be heading to Arizona if there's an appeals trial?
Oh gosh, if there's a, in-person trial, hearing, whatever it is, whether it's an appeal or a criminal case, let's go. I'm
Yeah,
there.
now that we're friendly with the security people there, I know now that I can take up 2 parking spots, so we'll
Yeah,
definitely get a much bigger, RV. So we'll definitely have to upgrade for that.
that's right.
Well, dude, thanks again for joining me
Mhm.
today, and, of course, I'm sure everyone already is subscribed to your page, but if not, go search Bruce, make sure that the YouTube picks up the search algorithm for you,
Yeah.
and, like his videos, watch them to their fullest extent, and keep boosting that algorithm. But, dude, thanks again for being a part of a very interesting story.
Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, I can't really believe that, we've come from, Katie and Greg, and here we are. It's been a
Wild,
wild ride.
wild, wild ride indeed. All right.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Take care.